Good morning and welcome to SEJ Marketing Think Tank's first interactive SEO audit. Today we'll be basically going over 3 sites that have been submitted by different readers of SEJ, and then also picking one site that you'll be submitting through the webinar itself. My name is Lauren Baker. I'm the founder of Search Engine Journal. And with me today I have Kelsey Jones, Matt Southern, Slobodan Manic, and Danielle Antaz, who is working the controls behind the scenes. So let's give each of you a chance to introduce yourself before we get started. Kelsey?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Kelsey Jones. As Lauren said, I'm managing editor of SEJ, and today I'm going to be focusing on UX and functionality of the sites we have for you today.
Great. Matt?
Hi, I'm Matt Southern. I'm the SEJ Breaking News writer, and today I'll be focusing on content and also providing some tips on free tools that you can use.
Great. And Slobodan?
Hi, I'm Slobodan Manic. I'm a CTO of Search Engine Journal, and I will be focusing on technical issues that sites have and page loading times.
Excellent, excellent. And just to let everyone know, while we're doing the webinar, if you have any questions, would like to share your experiences, make comments or anything on Twitter, the hashtag is SEJ ThinkTank. And like I said, the format will be, we're going to be reviewing SEO, user experience, any technical issues and content issues while we're going over everything. And then after each site, we're going to be giving a poll out to attendees to be able to, you can give your recommendations on what are some of the more important things that the site owner should focus on. After the webinar, we'll be releasing a review with everything that we've done in an SEJ post. And then also during the webinar, we will be sharing a lot of the tools that are mentioned by our team in the chat box on the GoToWebinar Control panel. So that's pretty much everything. If you have any questions, just use your question box on the panel as well. You can also submit your own site if you're looking for an audit there. So let's get started. The first site we'll be focusing on today is, let's see if it loads, thetastytrend.com. The Tasty Trend was interested in recommendations for user experience, had some load time issues, and we also looked at them from a content and SEO perspective. So to get things started, Kelsey, would you like to give an overview of some of the issues and things that you noticed when first looking at the site?
Yeah, sure. So on the home page, one of the first things I noticed was the carousel, if you scroll down, that has the selection of all the cupcakes. Right away, I just see that the dozens of cupcakes is very distracting, and I think it would look a lot better if it was just a single cupcake to show the detail. That's one thing that's distracting, as well as the automatic movement of the carousel. So let's say, you know, I wanted to choose this one on the far left. Well, by the time I might go over to click on it, the carousel moves. So it makes it a little difficult for whoever's on the site to click on the specific cupcake they want, even though you can control the arrows manually. It's just a little confusing. And then another thing I noticed, if you click on the quick view button, which is below the cupcake selection, so that's also a little distracting. First off, I noticed quantity. It doesn't say what type of quantity, but there's 2 options in the photo gallery. There's a dozen cupcakes and then a single cupcake, so you don't know if the quantity means a baker's dozen, a regular's dozen, 1 cupcake. I mean, you can judge by the price of 36 that it's probably a dozen, but it's not specific. Another thing that's distracting is the social media icons that are below Add to Cart. I would say that there's probably a 1 to 5% chance that a user is actually going to use those. So I would eliminate those buttons, because when it comes to UX and functionality, with call to action buttons, you want to make it as easy as possible for the user to complete a transaction. And in that case, it means add to cart. So you want that button to be the only thing that they click on, and make sure that it's not distracting. So those were the main things that I noticed when it came to functionality for the site for the Tasty Trend.
Great. Yeah, you're right. This is a very, very busy site. It's easy to get lost, and there's a lot going on when trying to buy a cupcake. So adding to what you would notice from the UX standpoint, Slobodan, I'd like to really hear what you've picked up really from a load time perspective.
There's a few things. First of all, the page speed score, and for those of you who don't know, page speed is a Google service. Page speed Insights is a Google service that lets you test your website score on desktop and mobile and how it, what Google thinks about it. The page speed scores, both desktop and mobile, are extremely low for this website. I think it's 21 homepage for desktop and 16 or something like that for mobile. So that's very, very, very bad, and that's out of 100. A few things cause that low score. Number one is that there's a lot of JavaScript files that are loaded, and none of them are compressed or unified. It can actually be just one JavaScript file that does all the work, and that way the score would be improved dramatically. And another thing that's, in my opinion, even worse is the image sizes. Actually, just compressing the images that are used in homepage could lead to size reduction of up to 3.3 megabytes, which is 65% of the size right now. And also, all of the images of these cupcakes that are below in the carousel, every image is actually included 4 times. A variation of that image is included 4 times in code. So that's absolutely unnecessary. And then finally, if you look at the images below the carousel, the gluten-free, allergy-friendly, and vegan, they all link to homepage. So there's 3 images that are loaded for no good reason, and when you look at the main menu, you have links for all those categories. So just fixing that would make a lot more sense. And even below that, the Instagram, I don't get what the point of that is, because they're not links that they're actually they load in a new window, but there's no option to follow directly from there. They're just a modal images. They should either link to the Instagram profile, to that image on Instagram, or just either remove them or make it possible to follow this account on Instagram directly.
And are there any ways that sometimes adding a third-party image that's served through Instagram or, say, an ad server or something like that can also slow down load time on the site?
Well, absolutely, because you don't control the server. So if that server goes down, if it's slow for whatever reason, then your website is going to experience that as well. But I mean, the bad thing about this site is that they don't control the server at all, because it's a Shopify store. It's a great way to run an online store, but you don't get full control like if you had your own server where you can just install all the scripts and modules you want and make the site faster.
Excellent, thank you. And that is a very interesting point about all of these images just linking to the homepage. I think for the owner of the site, you might want to use a tool like Crazy Egg, where you can, or even internal Google Analytics tracking, where you can do a heat map of your site to see where users are clicking. Since the positioning of the site is allergy-free, gluten-free, vegan, I'm pretty sure that's what users are looking for. So if they're clicking to this, all they're doing is reloading the homepage over and over again. And speaking of clicks and coding and content, Matt Southern, love to hear what you found from the SEO and content perspective when looking through the site.
Yeah, certainly. So first I'll go over some of the things that I liked about the site. And one of the first things I noticed was that all product pages and all category pages have unique copy, which is nice to see on an e-commerce site, because sometimes the tendency is to not even bother with copy for those pages, or just to copy and paste the same copy for similar types of products. But that's not what's going on here, so that's a good thing. And another thing I really liked was the FAQ page. That's a nice touch, because this is a fairly unique business. Sending cupcakes in the mail is not something that's been done, a long time. So one of my first questions was, how are these shipped? And I found that answer right in the FAQ section, so perfect. Great addition to the site there. So some improvements that I noticed were, first, that the blog is hosted on WordPress.com, and it's not hosted on the main domain. And that's problematic for a number of reasons. So I'd recommend, moving that over to your main domain. Also, more copy.
What are some of the reasons that you would say are problematic here?
Okay, some of the reasons are, first, you get none of the, if anyone's linking to your articles, you get none of the link juice back from that because they're linking to a subdomain on WordPress rather than your main domain. And there's not a lot of, you're taking them away from your site essentially. There's only one more link back to your website once they leave your main site and go to the blog. So that's not good either. So going back, building on what Slobodan was saying about site speed, another one of my recommendations is to add more homepage copy to balance out the substantial amount of code that you have going on there. Yeah, because he was saying your homepage text to HTML ratio is alarmingly low.
Yeah, real quickly, I'm going to pull up the way Google's reading the site. If you look at the Google cache of the site, and then you have the option to view the text-only version, you'll see that essentially Google is reading the site as just being a list of links. No content on the homepage, only links. So sometimes it's very easy to get image heavy and then forget to actually write out what you're trying to communicate from an image standpoint.
And the way Lauren got to that is he typed in search : and then the URL, and then in the search results there's a link below the search results that there's a drop down you'll see on the screen. He clicks that and then clicks cached, and that's how you get to that to kind of see how the Google spiders are reading that site. And then you see up in the top right version it says text only. So if you click on that, you can see a quick overview of how a search engine's reading your site.
Yeah, thanks, Lauren and Kelsey. Another thing about content is I would recommend to spread out how often you publish it, because I saw that multiple posts were all published on December 30th, and you could have spread that out a few days or a few weeks and got more mileage out of those articles. And the blog content itself is kind of all over the place. You have recipes, and then you have articles about traveling with children and things like that. So I'd recommend narrowing the focus down to what you say your focus is, which is cooking and baking with food allergies. So if you're looking for other ideas of what to create content around, one of the free tools available to you is Google Webmaster Tools. And using that, you can see what people are searching for to find your site, and that will give you an idea of the kinds of content people are looking for, so you can start strategizing what kinds of articles to create next. And again, going back to Slobodan's point about site speed, some tools, he mentioned Google PageSpeed Insights, and there's also another good one called GTmetrix. And they both look at the same types of data, but sometimes one tool finds something that the other one doesn't, and I just think it's a good idea to use both of them. And one last recommendation, since this is an e-commerce site, is to look into using schema markup, because there's a lot you can do using schema markup on an e-commerce site to improve your search visibility and search rankings.
Amazing. Thanks, Matt, and thanks to the rest of the team. We're going to move on to our second site right now, which is... oh,
wait, the poll. We were going to ask our viewers what they thought this site should focus on first.
Absolutely. Let's get that done. So everyone can take the time right now to answer this poll question. It's multiple choice. What do you think the Tasty Trend should focus on first? User experience, SEO, or content? About 25% of you have voted thus far, and share the results once we get to about 60%. So if everyone could go ahead and vote, we'll go ahead and share. Let's see, 55%, 60%. Oh, we're almost at 70. Keep them coming. And give you 5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Awesome. So 74% of you had voted. 58% saying that this site should focus on user experience. So thanks so much, Kelsey, for reminding me.
No problem. It's always interesting to see, what the audience thinks should be worked on first.
Absolutely. So user experience, content, and then SEO. Awesome. So it'll be really interesting at the end of this to compare all the different sites and feedback. And speaking of other sites, our next one is Canadian. Back. Okay, CanadianMetalRoofing.com by Classic Products Roofing Systems Incorporated. CanadianMetalRoofing.ca, sorry, not .com. Was interested in how to improve their homepage SEO, which is an interesting question since their homepage is very content heavy. Then also it's a trend in, Google really does not want you to try to rank your homepage everywhere, but internal pages. So since the focus here is more so on SEO, let's kick things off with Matt. What are some of the first things that you noticed while reviewing CanadianMetalRoofing.ca, Matt?
First of all, it is a Canadian company. That's right in my backyard, so shout out to all you Canadians in the audience. So one thing I liked about the homepage is that there's a considerable amount of copy. It's not all code or links like we saw on the other site, so that's excellent. And it also links to a number of individual service pages. You have pages for each of your service areas, which is good for local SEO, and you have pages for each individual service offering, which is also good because sometimes the tendency is to cram every service you offer onto one page. And also your homepage copy isn't over-optimized, which is nice because I see a lot of sites where they try to stuff every keyword they're trying to rank for into their homepage, and you're not doing that, so that's nice. You've carefully chosen your keywords, it seems like, and carefully crafted content around that. And you also link to plenty of resources to answer questions, any questions that customers may have, which is also good. A free tool you can use to analyze your homepage is called WooRank, and that'll be used to assess all of your different website elements. And a free version will provide just a limited amount of recommendations for how to improve your site. You have to pay to get full recommendations, but the free version recommended more social media promotion, improved site speed, and more keyword-focused content. And right away, one of the ways I can see to improve that is to blog more consistently. I notice you have the Ask a Roofing Expert section, but there's only 3 entries in there, and it hasn't been updated in as many months. So with the amount of questions customers must have about roofing, I'm sure you can easily fill it up with more content. And another way to get more content ideas is to search for your competitors using SEMrush. That's one of the many things that tool does, is find your organic search competitors. So you can scope them out and compare what kind of content they have on their site and their blog, and see how you can improve yours to get it up to par with theirs. One of the best competitors I found for you using SEMrush is ClassicMetalRoofingSystems.com, just as an example.
So looking at competitors is a good way to kind of get content ideas and see what they're doing that maybe you could do better. I wouldn't recommend copying your competitors, but just kind of use it as inspiration.
Absolutely. So any other on-site SEO issues that you found, Matt, while reviewing?
Yeah, well, there's I can't help but notice the slider in there, but that's more Slobodan's area. I was going to let him go over that one.
Thank you.
Cool.
Okay, this being a WordPress website, I might have a few more things to say compared to the previous one because I've had 7 years of WordPress experience. And first thing I see is that they use WP Supercache plugin for caching, but it's not completely properly configured. For example, things like browser caching, JavaScript minification, and browser compression also are not enabled. And if the server that they are hosted on allows that, they should absolutely check all those options in WP Supercache plugin. Let me get to slider. First, you never need sliders. That's my opinion. If you want to read more about it, I believe Yoast has a post published, and I think it's titled "Sliders Suck" or something like that. So another reason why they should not use a slider here is because 2 slides are repeated right below the slider. The never re-roof again, you can see it right below as an image. and then the snow country, that's also a slide up there, and there's no reason to do that. One more thing, the website is responsive, but not really. If you resize homepage, you'll see that these three images that are, you see, slider is impossible to read, and these images, because they're not real text, the one that says committed to doing quality installation and two below that, it's very, very difficult to read on mobile. So replacing those images with real text and real content, I think, would be a good idea. And there's the padding on the right side that you can also see when you scroll all the way down. The theme that they're using, it's a very, very popular theme that you can buy. I believe you can still buy on ThemeForest. It's called UDesign. And I'm saying this as someone who did more than 20 theme reviews for WordPress.org. Themes that try to do everything, you should never use those because they really do everything. And then when you look at what they're doing, for example, this one, just the theme, I'm not talking about the website. The theme loads 8 JavaScript files, 8 CSS files, and it has IE6 support. And IE6 is so dead and so old that in May 2010, and I'm reading this, in May 2010, Microsoft Australia had a campaign comparing it to 9-year-old milk. That was in 2010. This is 2015. So, a theme that supports IE6, who knows what else it does, and who knows how obsolete and old it is. You should invest in getting a real theme and not something you pick from a shelf and getting a real custom design and custom website, since that kind of investment can really help your business.
One thing I wanted to bring up while you're discussing responsive is that for, this site is in the home repair, home improvement, whether it's supplies, B2C or B2B. And the one thing I've noticed a lot of sites that I've worked on in that same space is that typically the mobile traffic has grown significantly in the past year, from like 10 to 15% up to 35, 40%. So if the site is not working on the cell phone or tablet, this one works. It's a little bit overcrowded, but it does work. Then it is an issue. And the tool, there's a lot of tools out there that help you see how your site looks across different devices, but the one we're using for this one is responsivetest.net, if anyone's interested in checking it out. So great. And how about you, Kelsey? What did you notice on the overall user experience side of things?
Yeah, sure. So like Slobodan, I also hate sliders and carousels, and I think I've ranted about it on my personal blog. They're just distracting, and especially the ones that automatically move, you feel like you automatically have to make a choice and you can't look at anything. So, if your site has a slider or carousel, basically the same thing, I would recommend getting rid of that. One of the top things that I noticed about this site is the interior pages that they're really great and really informative, but if your customer is coming from the search results and come to an internal page instead of the home page, you'll notice that on this page Lauren has pulled up, there's no call to action at the bottom of the text. And that's something I would really recommend, especially for this industry or service-based industries where they need to call you or complete an action to get in touch with you. There needs to be a call to action on every page. So just something below that checklist, call us today at blah, blah, your phone number, or the link to the contact form. That kind of stuff is really important. You need to make it as easy as possible for the user to contact you. Another good example that maybe would work for this site is when I needed a plumber a couple months back, I went to an internal page to make sure that they had the service I wanted, and then they had a contact form right in the sidebar. So that made it so easy for me to leave a contact form, and then they contacted me to finally set up the appointment and finalize that. Made it easy as possible for me with that contact form right in the sidebar on every interior page. So something like that I would really recommend. Another thing that I wanted to touch on as well that Matt mentioned was the Ask a Roofing Expert section, which is kind of serving as their blog. I think that's really great too because you're positioning yourself, Todd Miller, as a thought expert in the industry, which is really great. And I feel like a lot of customers that are searching in this type of industry, they have a specific request that they want answered. So by them filling out the Ask a Metal Roofing Expert form below his bio and asking questions, that not only gives you a really good source of content, but it's also connecting with your customers in a personal way and finding out what their top requests are, and that's going to help you with your site content going forward.
Absolutely. It's also going to help when Todd Miller is the one that contacts them, right? So
yeah,
be contacted by an expert. The one additional thing I wanted to bring up, going back to the slider, is that you don't really see this that often, but in this type of slider, it looks like they're trying to get in text, right? So you're trying to get the big, bold H1 style snow country with metal roofing, and then also text to accompany that pretty much on every single slide of the carousel. But Google has recently made it an effort to stop indexing content that's not viewable by the user. More so content that you usually see hidden in tabs on the site or expandable content. And the one thing I did notice is that this content in the slider, even though it's developed to try to be indexed by Google, simply is not getting indexed. So here are the 3 slider files. Actually, no, those are the 3 other files. So nothing in the slider whatsoever is being indexed. So something to keep in mind if your designer tries to get you to buy a carousel with indexable content, it doesn't look like Google's really indexing that content anymore. Another thing I did notice as well on the inbound linking side of things is that the site, for only being around for 7 or 8 months, has a very high trust flow and citation flow, even though the inbound referring domains are only 8. So they can definitely build upon that with a linking program. So if Todd over at Classic Metal Roofing can expand upon his content initiative on the blog, build inbound links to that, and also get links in more of the business directories or home improvement directories, that should be able to help substantially, because as of now they're kind of sitting on the second page of results for a lot of metal roofing terms in Google Canada as tracked by SEMrush. Just wanted to throw that out there as well. Anything else before we get to the poll, the user poll on CanadianMetalRoofing.ca?
I would recommend too that they up their local SEO efforts, so make sure that they have proper listings in Google Plus and Yelp and places like that, because that's going to help with links, and then also hopefully increase their presence in the local area, because I know roofing and home improvement is really competitive, so it's important that your local SEO is on point.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, everyone. And I'm going to be sending out the second poll. So same thing as before. We had about 74% of our think tank answer the last poll. Let's see if we can beat that this time. So let's go. First glance, what do you think Canadian Metal Roofing should focus on first? User experience, SEO, or content? So I'll give the think tank about 30 to 45 seconds or so to complete this. And looks like it's coming in really fast. There's a couple of these that are competing. All right, we're at 70%. Give the crowd about 5 seconds to keep on voting. Two of these disciplines are head-to-head, so it'll be interesting to see what comes through. We're at 75%, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, closing the poll and sharing results. So 73% of you voted. User experience we thought was one of the first things that should be focused upon, but SEO was a pretty close second there, and being that the user was looking for SEO help, that helped, and then content at the bottom. So thanks a lot. Again, we'll be sharing the audit information tools that we've discussed and the poll results for Canadian Metal Roofing .ca. And let's move on to our next site, which is a great one. Okay, medclerkships.com, which is looking for just about everything in terms of SEO, UX, functionality, and everything else. So, you know, with this one, let's change things up and start out with you, Slobodan, because I do believe this site is hosted on WordPress. Is that correct? Or using WordPress?
It is using WordPress, yes. It's hosted on HostGator, and I think on a very, very cheap share plan, and that is probably the biggest issue this site has. Very, very slow response times. It takes more than 2 seconds for the server to return anything, not for the entire page to load, just to talk back to user in his browser and just say, hey, we're here, just wait until we deliver the rest of the page. So that's horrible. That's very, very low and should absolutely be improved. I think the difference between in cost between cheapest hosting you can get and, let's say, decent hosting is no more than $10 or $20 a month. So that's definitely an investment that should be made in this case, because Google PageSpeed Insights see that as the biggest problem this website has, but it's not the only one. If the WordPress site, it uses a stock theme also. My biggest problem with that theme and with how it's implemented here, it's just, it looks exactly like the theme demo. It's a theme by Good Layers. I think it's called Medical Plus or something like that. I'm not sure. It's an old theme that was last updated in June 2013 that can be bought at ThemeForest. So, you know, that's almost, well, not almost, it's a year and a half without an update to this theme. And just like the theme in previous website, it loads 25 files, 9 CSS files loaded just by the theme, and there's also plugins that load a lot more, and 11 JavaScript files loaded by the theme. And I think David asked the question. He mentioned 2 other very popular ThemeForest themes, and you know whether they should be used. It is my honest opinion that they should never ever be used, even though so many people buy them, and they're such bestsellers that it's absolutely insane, in my opinion. In the end, you see that a theme is loading 30 files on every page request, and there's no reason for that. You know, it should be 1 image file with all the sprites. If it's even using CSS sprites, it should be 1 CSS file and 1 JavaScript file. If a theme does more than that, then it's not doing something right, and that is a very, very big problem in my opinion, and also a huge performance issue. Another thing with this theme, it's not responsive. Not like the metal roofing, it's not responsive at all, and in 2015 there's no excuse not to be responsive.
Yeah, you have to mouse over a lot if you're on your phone
Yep.
to see everything.
Yeah.
Oh, can I just add a slider?
Yes, please, please, because
if I was on my phone right now, I'd be freaking out. I mean, the slider, it's just, I don't see the point. It's just a list of headings and subheadings. There's no call to action. There's nothing. So, you know, just having one huge button instead of a slider that says click here, I think is better use of screen real estate.
Yeah. Pretty. It's funny how unbusy the top of the site is, and as you scroll down, it just turns into a hot mess,
Yes.
including the slider. So let's turn it over to Kelsey to discuss the hot mess that's going on.
Yes, I wanted to talk about the footer because it's a little ridiculous. If you scroll down, it's or not the slider, the footer, I mean, sorry. If you scroll down, the footer is almost as big as the rest of the page. And footers should really just be either the top level nav menu and then maybe, you know, a couple social buttons or your schema code. It shouldn't be a whole other section. So I would remove the feeds for Facebook and LinkedIn, or sorry, Facebook and Twitter. Those look a lot better in the sidebar. And then if you want to have a contact call to action down there, I would make that a lot smaller or just have it be a link. One of the reasons why I say you should cut down on this busy footer is it's just overwhelming. So people are just going to scroll past it because it's just too much, and you want to make, again, decisions as easy as possible and only give people a few options. Another thing I noticed above at the top of the page with the slider is it doesn't immediately describe what the site is. So if I just stumbled upon this site and I don't know if it's what I'm looking for, you need to have, you know, an overall mission statement or maybe a bulleted list of the top level services you offer instead of a moving slider. I think it would work a lot better. And one of the reasons for this is because this is above the fold, which means above the fold means what immediately shows on the page before scrolling down. So anything above the fold, you need to have the most important information. So you need to have the mission statement and what you offer right away. I will say it is really good on this site that they have the phone number right at the top of the page. That is good for leads, and you want to make sure that having people contact you, again, is as easy as possible.
Awesome. And Matt, what are you seeing from the SEO side? I'm seeing a bunch of stuff. I'm just trying to hold it in right now. So I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, well, before I get to all that, I'll just go over some things that I like about the site, since that's, you know, hasn't been touched on as much yet. So some of the things that impressed me with content was that this business is blogging at least once a month with content that appears to be fairly rich and fairly full of value. So that's nice. And I also love the video testimonials. I was kind of blown away by that. It's not something you see very often. However, the page does take a very long time to load, so just be mindful about that. The blog also takes quite a while to load, but the content is good. And so for assessing this site's overall SEO, what I recommend using is a free tool called Screaming Frog, which makes me smile every time I have to use it because it's called Screaming Frog. So you will have to download that. It's not a web-based tool, but it's available for either PC or Mac. And it's, you know, it's free, and, you know, it's not, doesn't take up much hard drive space or anything. So just running the site through there, what it does is kind of grabs all of different SEO elements on the site and organizes it into easy digestible lists and columns. And the first thing I would look for is 404 errors underneath response codes, and it's showing two 404 errors on your domain, which is a killer for your site. 404 errors are never good to have, and it's and that's only showing what's internal links. So to get a full overview of all of your 404 errors, you really have to hook it up to Google Webmaster Tools and look at your crawl errors. But right away, there's at least two 404 errors, so that means you probably have a few more. The next thing I'd look at is page titles to see how they're written and to see if any are missing. So you have no missing page titles, and that's an awesome thing. But there's a huge problem with the way they're written. So for example, all of your page titles begin with the domain URL, and ideally page titles should only contain a well-optimized title and nothing else. So I'd recommend rewriting all your page titles to contain only the title. And then after that, I'd look at your meta descriptions to see how they're written. And, you know, I know meta descriptions aren't as important as they used to be, but it still never hurts to have well-optimized meta descriptions for your key pages. And unfortunately, very few meta descriptions on this site are customized, so I'd recommend going through and adding unique meta descriptions to all pages that don't have one already. And that sounds like a lot of work, but actually if you download the plugin SEO by Yoast, you can bulk edit all of your page titles and descriptions and easily take care of those two issues I just went over. The next thing I'd look at in Screaming Frog are the H1s to see if any are missing, because I believe every page should have an H1 with the focus keyword in it. And several pages were found not to have H1s, including important pages like your services page. So I'd recommend going through those pages that don't have H1s and just inserting one that has your focus keyword in it. And then also do the same thing for H2s. And finally, one thing to look for is missing alt tags on your images. And 25 images on this site actually have missing alt tags. So just go through and add alt tags to those images using the focus keyword of whatever page they're being used on. Yeah, and you know, fixing these fundamental elements should go a long way to improving your site's SEO.
Thanks. Yeah, it's like one of the things that I'm having a hard time really trying to understand is exactly what this company does, right? So that's definitely not communicated once you read the home page, and then as you scroll down, you can get a little bit into it, and then, oh, here you go, at the very bottom of the page above the footer. Why choose us? Clerkships offers many unique opportunities to graduate along the residency match process. So that is basically their elevator pitch, but it's on the bottom floor, right? Where it should be towards
the elevator's on floor 1.
Yeah. But again, a lot of improvements, and one thing we're definitely seeing here from a theme perspective is sometimes what you get out of the box is not properly optimized for search, so something to really look at as well. I did notice that SEMrush isn't really picking up much US ranking for this, and from a referring domain standpoint, have some forum links. Not sure if that's good or bad. It's health related, based upon topical trust flow. So they could definitely use a little bit more than 2 links or links from 2 referring domains as well. But this is a situation where it's best to clean up your backyard before going out and asking for inbound links and whatnot and doing the marketing, because right now it's not optimal for search, as it's not optimal for conversions either. So again, I think everyone knows the drill. Well, first of all, is there anything else, Kelsey, Matt, Slobodan, you'd like to add to any recommendations for medclerkships.com?
There was a question from the audience while we were doing this audit, so if I may just respond to that. I believe Ron asked how you can know how many scripts and how many CSS files are being loaded by your team and by your website in general, and I'm going to paste the link here in the window, but you can use a tool by Pingdom. It's called, just a second, it's called Website Speed Test, I'm sorry. And you can, if you just run your website through that, it will give you a list of like a waterfall view of how your web page is loaded, which file is loaded first, which files take the longest to load, and a total number of files, and also how you can disable some of the unused JavaScript and CSS files from being loaded in your WordPress team or by your WordPress team or any plugins. I'm afraid it's not that easy to do, and my advice is if you're using such a team that loads 10 CSS files and 10 JavaScript files, just go to support for the team seller and tell them, hey, what's up with that? Can you fix that? Why are you doing it? Why are you loading a map.js that should be just in the About page where the map should be loaded? Why are you loading that on every single page of my website? Or why are you loading some pretty photo gallery script, JavaScript, on every page of the website if it's not being used everywhere? So unless you have a developer who's going to fix that for you, just support ticket, support ticket, support ticket, and they'll fix it. You'll have to.
Another thing I wanted to mention too, Slovan, this is something you helped me with, I think, a couple weeks ago. On my own site, I was trying to find all the 404 errors that are external and internal, and you had recommended 2 downloadable programs to me because you had said that plugins that find broken links really slow down your page speed, and sometimes servers will ban them because they take such a large load. And so I'm going to paste the one you recommended to me for Mac in the chat window because I have a Mac and it works great. It was free, and you just it told me all my inbound or my internal and external 404 errors and let me export that to a CSV file, and then I can go through. It gives the specific URL for the what internal page has a broken link, so I can go in and fix it. But I don't remember what the PC one was. Do you remember that one?
I think the name is Link Sleuth. So let me try to get the link for our audience.
You mean Link Sleuth?
And yeah. That was free too, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's the one. I'm just going to, don't let the website scare you because it looks very hacky, but no, it's a legit tool. So here it is.
Yeah.
There are a couple other questions that came up, and let's get into them before we take on our next surprise site. First question was, what's the difference between a slider and a carousel and a gallery? Slider and carousel are basically used for the same term. This is basic what we see up here, right? It's an image that changes, it slides to the left, to the right, takes up a lot of space. Gallery typically would be an internal page where you have smaller images, and as you click on each one, that image is shown larger. But the words slider and carousel are pretty much interchangeable. There was also a question about alt attributes or alt tags, and yeah, they are good for SEO. It's not a major change, but it can help. It's also good for the visually impaired, and typically, what's ironic here is typically on a site that's meant for medical services or medical professions, there are certain compliances, and having alt attributes as part of the site is one of them.
Yeah, and then I see there's another question from the audience about a good plugin to use to edit alt tags in bulk, and Slobodan just listed one in the chat window. Another one that I've used is SEO friendly images, which I don't know if that is the same one.
That's the one.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So that one is what I use, and it works great.
Excellent. So while we get together our next site for the audit, let's go ahead and issue another poll. One moment, please. Okay, so very simple. What do you think med clerkships should focus on first? Please take the time to vote.
Also, if you guys have any other questions, just use the hashtag SEJ ThinkTank on Twitter or Facebook, and we can get to those after the webinar and hopefully help you answer some of those questions as well. And we'd really appreciate any live tweets too if you can.
All right, and it looks like our poll is closing up. We're at 62%, 63%, so I'll give everybody a couple of seconds to vote, and let's close it out right now. Okay, share results. So again, wow, user experience, 61%, SEO 21%, and content 19%. And yeah, again, user experience. Like Slobodan, I think this was, I think even the design on this is right out of the box, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, so medclerkships.com is basically, if you're using the same design that's a default, there's probably going to be thousands of other sites that look just like you.
I'm going to try to find the demo URL and just share it with the audience so they can see the demo for that theme.
Very cool. So let me go ahead and load our next patient. Yeah, SEJ Marketing Think Tank Audit. Let's see, we have AutoLux.lt, and I believe that's Lithuania. So AutoLux is a brand new car rental service at affordable prices based in Lithuania. So not only do we have car rentals to look at, but this is also a site that I would imagine is targeted towards travelers that are planning a vacation, being that it's a Lithuanian site, but it's in English. So let's give all of you a chance to kind of look over things right now before we get started. Finding a couple here. So you see in the footer, there's a place for articles and news, and you'll see that there's no articles found and no news yet. You know, if you're not going to write any articles or put any news on your site, there's really no point in having that category listed. Just don't do it. Wait until you get content. Wait until you give it up 3 or 4 pages, then put it up there. It looks like you have stuff that's ready to go and to add to in the future, and engageable content for that user. Matt Kelsey or Slobodan, what are you seeing from the beginning here?
I'll
I feel
say
it looks nice.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kelsey.
Oh, that's sorry. That's what I was going to say too. Is that I really like the call to actions above the fold, and are explainable. You know, they're really explainable and easy to understand right off the bat, so you can click on what you want to click on right away. It's also good that they have a little box, you know, book your car now with the phone number, and then you can also enter in the information to kind of calculate a rental price right off the bat. And I think in this industry, that is something that most people want. They don't want to have to necessarily call to get an exact quote. A lot of times when people are researching travel or this kind of service, they're going to check a bunch of sites all at once before they decide who to call. So it's really good to have, you know, either your rates up front or something easy like this calculator that you can let the user kind of get an estimate of price before they call you to complete a transaction.
Yeah, you know, this is a really nice, I mean, building upon that really, this is a really nice balance of imagery, calls to action, defining what they are, and content all at once. You know, in a very slider or carousel heavy field, it's nice, it's refreshing to see a site kind of putting all of that together.
Yeah, definitely.
One thing I did notice is that since this is a European site, it has this cookie message at the top. So yeah, I'm okay with accepting cookies.
It looks to me like they just recently relaunched or redesigned the website. I'm just looking at Wayback Machine, which is a website where you can see how certain websites looked at snapshots in the past. And I'm looking at their December 17th, 2014 snapshot, and it looks completely different. I'm going to post a link to that as well. So maybe they missed a few things if they just relaunched. Maybe they just relaunched, and that's why they want to ask us for our opinion. But if you look at in the footer, there's a link to a page that's called Vehicle Park. That's a 404. So you know that if I see a car, there's a Mercedes, let me see what it was, Benz Sprinter, and I want to click that. It says 159 euros a day. I click that. There's a 404 page. So that's pretty bad for user experience, and that could mean lost customer right there. And another thing. The page speed is good. It's not bad at all, and also Pingdom is very generous to this website. Other than the theme itself uses a lot of PNG files. For every single icon, it uses a separate PNG file, and you can either look into using font icons or using a font family with icons in it for this, or maybe you can just use CSS sprites and just have one big PNG file and then use CSS to display each icon where it should be.
Another thing I just noticed when Lauren was clicking through on the 404 page, it goes back to, I think, Lithuanian instead of English. So that could be a little frustrating or confusing to a user who just speaks English like me. I mean, obviously the icons are still knowledgeable, but if there was a call to action or something about contacting customer service, I wouldn't be able to see it, below in the footer.
If you don't mind, I'd like to mention something about off-page SEO for a second. I just ran this through a tool using a tool that Lauren used earlier called Majestic SEO, or actually just called Majestic now. And there's a lot of backlinks, over 3,000 actually, and 73 referring domains. However, your trust flow and citation flow are very low, especially considering the amount of links you have. So that says to me that you might not be getting the highest quality links, and perhaps focus on that a little bit more.
Yeah. Also, just getting into that a little bit too, like the trust flow, it looks like computers, internet, web outranks travel here, and I'm not really seeing much in the world of cars as well. So if we get a little bit into the links, because you have like almost 2,000 links from a handful of domains. So as you'll see, you might want to look into, typically Google is not a fan of site-wide links, right? So here's a page, I won't get that deep into the details, but there's 456 links coming from this one page. It's probably a footer or a sidebar or something like that. It looks like getting links from government pages and tourism type pages, which all make sense. And since I don't speak Lithuanian, it's a little bit difficult to get down into it. But looking at the trust flow, you may want to look into more travel-oriented pages to kind of outrank things from the computer, internet, on the web side, and also in maybe some automobile-oriented sites as well.
Did this page have a blog, or was that the articles?
Yeah, there's the article in the news section that both bring up. I just want to try something. That's not going to make much of a difference. But. Yeah, interesting, right? So when you when there's not the English language parameter, there's a 404 served on this page. But when you have the English language parameter here, which is basically assigning your server to serve the English version of a site, it's not a 404. It's just like a templated articles page with nothing there and all the English information. So since the site looks like it does have multiple languages, then what you're going to want to do is, this is probably default in your template, maybe because there's no news or articles yet, but make sure that these links follow that language path. So if someone's visiting the site that speaks English and they click on news, they should go to the English language news page. If they're speaking French, then they should, go to the French news page. Again, so definitely look into that, because right now, if you had content on that English language page, you'd still be serving a 404 error. So that really needs to be fixed from a navigation standpoint.
Yeah, I think the articles, that's a good opportunity for them to have unique content, since they're specializing in kind of tourists or people that just need cars temporarily. You could have articles about day trips, around Lithuania, or festivals coming up that somebody would need a car to get to, or, things about the type of cars they have if they got the brand new latest Mercedes model in stock, kind of talking about that. It'd be really easy to come up with good, unique content for this vertical.
I know last time I was in Europe, we drove through about 5 or 6 countries, and when you're driving through the EU, I think it's one law, but things like, what kind of license do I need? Do I need a AAA international driver's license? What kind of insurance papers do I need to have on hand? I actually did that research beforehand, and queries like that, informational queries like that, can bring in that user and have them convert. We also got a question from Candace King about should they disavow those links that were shown on Majestic. In my opinion, disavow is used way too much. You really have to dig in to see what kind of links they are. If they are bad links, if they are good links. Typically, if they're bad links, Google really wants you to take the manual effort to take those links down first, to request that the links be taken down, to change the links, maybe no follow the links if the links are bringing in targeted traffic. So, disavow really should be the last step in that process. Google's come out to say that now with all the disavow requests, looking at 6 to 9 months in some cases to get them processed. So if you do find links that are not good, try to take them down manually first. And we have it looks like we're running out of time here. So if you have any further questions, please tweet us with hashtag SEJ Summit. Please share what you found at hashtag SEJ Summit on Twitter.
SEJ ThinkTank.
Sorry, SEJ ThinkTank on Twitter. And let's get out, there's no poll for this one, so that's pretty much it. Thank you to the SEJ team for putting all of this together. Like I said, we'll be sharing an overview of the audit after today. And again, thanks a lot, and thanks for joining us here at the SEJ Think Tank.